I want to talk a little bit more about minor scales. We went through them in level 1. I want to go back and look at them again. They're very useful things. We write music in minor keys every much as we write it in major keys. Minor scale has a nice bit of edge to it, a little sadder, a little more somber, and it's an issue that is worth looking into just a little bit more. So there are two ways, once again, as review, of seeing where you get a minor scale from. The traditional way is what's called the relative minor, which once again is built on the 6th note of the major scale. In the case of C, that would be A, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here is an A minor scale. Now, one of the problems with minor scales is that there's more than one kind. There's only one kind, only one flavor of major scales. But minor scales, you've got this kind, which we call the natural minor, because all the notes are natural to its relative major. Notice I'm not playing any sharps or flats. These are the exact same notes as in the key of C, but A is now home. Now, speaking of home, we know we call that do. So the solfege for this is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, te, do. Let's look at the other way of looking at minor scales. Here is C major. Let's look at its parallel major, which would be running along the same tracks. We keep the same do, but we take the 3rd of the scale and we bring it down, so it's minor. We bring the 6th of the scale down, so it's minor. We bring the 7th of the scale down, so it's minor. So we have a minor 3rd, a minor 6th, and a minor 7th. This would be the parallel minor to C major. And the solfege would be the same because it's the same kind that we just played on A. It would be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, te, do. On the way down, do, te, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. So notice that mi becomes me, la is la, ti is te in solfege. So this is the natural minor scale. If I take the 7th note and move it up to this note, now we have what's called the harmonic minor scale. There's also the scale which is just like the major scale. All the upper part of it, the 6th and the 7th degrees, which are the ones in a minor scale that keep moving around, they're the exact same. The only is in a major scale. The only difference is that the 3rd is brought down, so you have this scale, minor 3rd, and everything else is just like a major scale. There is the theoretical scale called the melodic minor that goes up like this and then down like that. You don't really see it in use all that much in real composition. I like to look at minor scales as being actually a 9-note scale. The first 5 notes of the scale, as we talked about in level 1, they're stable, they're not going to move. But because you can have this kind of 6 or this kind of 6, this kind of 7 or that kind of 7, it seems to me that the minor scale we deal with should be this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have a 9-note scale because we want to be free to use this 6 or this 6, this 7 or that 7, depending on what our ear dictates. So, minor scales. Yeah? Everybody with me so far? I hope so. Let's move on to the chords in a minor scale. If we play the chords in a minor scale, there's some problems when you compare it to a major scale, because in a minor scale, the 6th and 7th degree keep moving around. So, the number 1 chord as a triad is almost always a minor triad. The number 2 chord could also be minor, but very often it's diminished because we can move this note down here. The number 3 chord is usually major, but it could also be augmented, which is very rare, but it could be because we can move the 7th note of the scale up to here. The 4 chord is almost always minor. The 5 chord is usually major, but it can also be minor. There's a lot of popular music that uses the 5 chord in minor, the 5 chord in a minor scale, and they make it minor instead of major. But traditionally, the 5 chord will be major. The 6 chord can be either this or this. It can be either an A flat chord or an A chord. This would be A flat major. This would be A diminished. The 7 chord can be B flat major, which today it usually is, or it can be B diminished. So those are the way the triads work in a minor scale, and again, this applies to any of the 12 pitches. It works the same way. Something you should know is that generally when we number the notes in a minor scale, when we number both the notes and the chords, we use the term flat a lot of the time. So this chord would be called the flat 3. It's built on 1, 2, not 3, but flat 3. This chord would be called the flat 6. This would be called the flat 7. Now these numbers are important. They use the major scale as a reference point. This is 3, this is flat 3. This is 6, this is flat 6. This is 7, this is flat 7. Now, before I go any further, and you're thinking, what in the world does this have to do with me and the music I write? Listen. I just played 1, flat 7, flat 6, back to flat 7, back to 1. That's a set of chords. That's a chord progression we hear a lot. It's in a minor key, going from 1 to flat 7 to flat 6, back up through flat 7, on the way back up to number 1. Happens all the time. So knowing the correct term to call these addresses in a scale is an important thing. And I think that's enough about minor scales for the moment.